Díomh, fáilte isteach. Hello, everyone. Welcome to this month's interview with a member from Bitesize. Today I have John, aka Sean, as we know him on Bitesize Pobble. Sean, conna sa tátu?
Tá mé go maith agus tú féin.
Tá me go húntaach, gur maith agat. So, yeah, thanks for joining me. I'm really looking forward to this chat. We chat a lot on Pobble, but we actually never get to talk in person. Well,
That's
online,
true, yeah.
face to face. So I'm looking forward to it, and thanks again for joining me. So we'll start off as I normally start, and that is to ask you to tell us about yourself. So Inish doing food féin, a Sean.
Okay, so diagrit is anabdum Seánna Carúil as gaeilge, is éarnach mé agus limnach mé ó gúchas ach tá mé imethe ann le 5 bliana déag anuas. Inis tá mé i mo chónaí sa sin le ma bhain céile sa cathair mór dar bheanam Hangzhou agus tá sé chongárach le Shanghai. Tá burt fáiste gom agus tá madra beag granúir litse a going freisin. Ima fust tá mé ina bhúntóir alín agus béirle sa bhunscoil áitiúla ach rih sin táim ina ceoltóir agus scríb mé aláin árán agus hainnim gitar sa ceolcuirm timppel an tír seo. Agus let me see. Sa taucí bhálam a bheith ábalta ag leabhart sa córán na dúrtha lime cáirde go thomláin agus go líomhá as gaeilge. So sin é gur bh agat.
Go húntaach, Sean. Now, do you want to translate that for our viewers who might not have as good as Irish as you do? So away you go, as Béirlan, son.
So in English, my name is John. I'm Irish and I'm from Limerick originally, but I've been gone from there for about 15 years. And now I live in China with my wife here in a city called Hangzhou, which is near enough to Shanghai on the southeast of China. I have 2 kids. And I have a little dog as well, who's very cute. And in my job, I teach English and art, and in a primary school nearby here, locally to me. But before that, I was also a musician. Been playing music for many years and play the guitar and write songs and play a lot of shows around the country. And then lastly, I suppose, in the future, my future ambitions with Irish or with the language would be to be able to have at least a natural enough conversation in Irish, completely in Irish, with my friends, maybe online or face to face, either one would be fine, you know. So that's it, yeah.
Go huntach. Well, you've an interesting life so far. So I suppose the first question to follow on from that would be, you talked about your future, but I kind of want to go backwards and ask you how was your first experience with Irish? You're a Limerick man, so I presume that you had gaeilge scoil in school. So how was that for you when you were younger? Did you get on well? Did you like it? Were you?
Well, yeah, I mean, I have a lot of very nice memories from primary school. Maybe as a young boy, I can remember lots of, especially being a musician, I suppose I remember an awful lot of songs. And I suppose the first song I remember was like, Love, ella a hen a do, cos ella a hen a do, stuff like that. I mean, I was a small boy at primary school in the 80s, so that, I'm sure the songs have, developed much more since then.
Well, that's still taught.
Yeah.
Let me tell you.
But it's a cute song for small kids, But then, like, as I grew up, as I got a little bit older, I went to like Irish school as well in the summertime down in Countraw, which is Ventry, and I went there pretty much most summers when I was a young teen. Um, and you probably know yourself, Emma. Sure, just learn loads of songs and a
Mm-hmm.
lot of stories, and we lived with the Bannon T as well, and
Mm-hmm.
she spoke completely with us in Irish all the time as well. And if we were watching TV or had the radio on, it would only be allowed in Irish. Um, so, and if we weren't feeling comfortable to speak in Irish, we had to just wait until we were comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it takes a few days for the transition to happen. Um, to start thinking in another language like that if you're not so comfortable or not so used to it.
Mm-hmm.
But I suppose, yeah, for me, most of my early memories would be like um, books, stories, and songs in Irish. In fact, I have a few here that I wanted to show you. Like, I don't know, will that come off
Yeah.
backwards now?
No, it's
Clown
perfect.
Lear.
Oh, and there, go hauling.
So
Yeah.
I read that. I read that with my own two kids here in the evening. I have a load of little books that I have handy, and there's another school book, Deirdre agus an Fear Brege.
Gohuntach. Lovely. Yeah, see, perfect. Beautiful
Because
mama.
yeah, I read all of them with my own kids, I suppose maybe because I live in China, it's less likely to run into the Irish language over here, but at least I kind of try to recreate that environment at
Mm-hmm.
home a little bit, anyways.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah. So, anyways, I don't know. I'm gone off on a tangent now a small
No,
bit, but
no, you're
yeah.
not. You're leading perfectly, I suppose, into my next question. So, yeah, you'd nice memories. I presume you did well in Irish in school. And
Well, I did
then,
all right. The only difficulties I ever had was really with the grammar side of things. I was never one for rules, to be honest with you, and remembering
mm,
them. So I'm sure a lot of people would feel the same way. But yeah, I much prefer, like, I suppose, which I felt there wasn't enough of at school was, time spent actually speaking and using the language person to person,
mhm,
face to face time, which I would, which I focus much, much more on with my own kids when I'm talking to them. I make sure that, that they're understanding the words that I'm saying,
mhm,
and that we can actually have, even if it's just a few sentences or a question here and there, that they can understand what I'm saying.
sure, of course,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, sure. So you you liked it in school, you got on fine, you're grand, and then fast forward now to, well, I suppose when you first moved to China up to now, why or when did you come back to Irish? Did you kind of, as most people do, or as many people do, they finish off in secondary school or whatever, and they kind of leave it then, and they don't
Yeah.
come into contact with Irish until they kind of make a point to come back to it, or something happens, and it coincidentally happens.
Yeah.
There's different stories, but what's your situation, or how did you find yourself spending time and you know making a thing of it to actually come back and learn it again?
Mm, I suppose it was just when my kids started growing up a small bit, and because it's kind of a funny thing actually. I found learning Irish, because even a word or two, it seems to bring back memories of my youth, of like my early youth, and just like you might be reading something and then you come across a word that you haven't seen in years, and
Mm-hmm.
it's so suddenly you have all of these memories come flooding back of when you were a small child at school. And it's amazing that something like that is just so many memories attached to just a word. You know what I mean? So I felt almost like I didn't want to be, because I live in China as well, and I'm really the only person nearby that I know of that speaks it or uses it. I didn't really, I don't know, I kind of felt an obligation towards my kids, or towards my family, to use it, to kind of, because I don't know, I suppose I probably had like a kind of a nightmare scenario popped into my head. It was kind of an eventuality. I just kind of go, geez, you know what? if I don't use it, it's gone from my family. Do you know what I mean?
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
I really had this, I don't know, it was kind of just this realization just popped into my mind. I really don't want that to happen, and I just said, at the very least, I could start reading books to them and just, um, by doing so, kind of, I don't know, sharing a piece of their heritage with them and where they come from, and something that distinguishes them from, uh, from everybody else out there, that they do have a very interesting culture and heritage that's, over 1,000 years old in this language. So I didn't really want to be the person that was going to let that happen. So I just decided, okay, well, I need to do what I have to make sure that that doesn't happen.
Mhm.
So yeah, just got online. I started mailing a load of my friends to ask who among them would be able to speak it or to use it with me and to practice it. And most of them couldn't, to be honest with you. So it really came down to me making a personal choice and a personal effort to seek it out, and to join groups such as this, such as Bitesize, and make a determined effort, um, to revitalize it, I suppose, in my own life, for the sake of my children, you
Mhm.
know. And that was kind of, I suppose, what instigated it, anyways. And then once I had made that choice, then um, start seeking out videos on YouTube and SoundCloud. There's loads of great stories there, people reading stories. So even if you're not so comfortable with your own pronunciation, you can find books and stories and practice with those as well. Um, and that's great for kids because I put on Radio the Gaeltacht in the background as we're having dinner sometimes.
Mhm.
And yeah, so it really was all in an effort just to um, make the language a little more ubiquitous, I suppose, with the family here. You know,
Mhm. No, I completely understand, and a very valid, worry that you would have abroad. Bring your family up abroad, away from Ireland, and you have all these memories attached to Irish, and you're giving your kids the chance to also have even a piece of that. Okay,
right?
they
Yeah,
they won't have it in school, but yeah, I that resonates with me because that would be something I'd, if I live in Germany, and if that was ever, if I was ever bringing up a family, not yet, but if and when it happens, and if it does happen here, it is a worry to have that. Well, if I don't speak it, well, who's going to speak it? And the kids aren't going to
exactly. Yeah,
log online and try and seek out. You have to give it to them. You have to give them at least the opportunity. It has to come from an adult figure, or someone in their life that'll
definitely.
do that for them. So brilliant. And you are making an effort. You really are on Pubble. I see you every day logging on, making a very conscious effort to write as gaeilge, ask your questions as gaeilge, everything. So
Yeah,
fair dues to you, John, because it's tough to self motivate yourself when you sometimes you feel like you're the only one doing it when you're abroad. It's a little bit easier when you're at home in Ireland sometimes, because you could try and draw a few words out of some friends, but you really have to go and search for it
that's
when you
true.
have to do it online.
I
Yeah.
I suppose, but at the same time, I was thinking about it. I was thinking, I'm not sure if it would be much easier if even if I was living in Ireland, because English is so much more prevalent there, anyways, that you would
Mm,
still have to make that extra effort to seek it out. Whether it would be a visit to the Gaeltacht whenever you could, or
mm-hmm,
to go into Conor na Gaeilge, or where, just to make that, you really just have to make a personal choice and then just kind of to follow through on it.
mm-hmm,
And
mm-hmm,
whether you want to do it every day or just a couple of times a week, it's up to yourself, I suppose. But um, yeah, whatever you choose to do, I think it's very important to just stick with it, because yourself, like learning any language, it's not a short term process. It takes a long, long time.
Mhm. Mhm.
So it's kind of not to lose faith in it if you have a few hurdles, here and there.
Absolutely. Yeah, I agree. I started Italian a couple of weeks ago, and I feel for everyone because I haven't started learning a language again from scratch in a very long time. So I've a
Yeah.
little bit more empathy for everyone for everyone starting a new language.
Well,
I'm
I
back
tell
to
you,
square one.
you should give Chinese a go sometime.
Or maybe in another life. Maybe in another life.
It's a world away. It's unbelievable.
I
Yeah.
don't think. Does your knowledge of Chinese ever help your learning of Irish? Is there any crossover ever?
It's actually quite interesting because sometimes I feel that the sentence structure in Chinese has more in common with an Irish sentence structure than an English one, you
Mm,
know, because sometimes when you speak, you have to kind of take a second to reorder the words in your mind, you know,
mm-hmm,
and I find that I have more trouble doing that with English than I do with Chinese or Irish,
mm-hmm.
which is kind of bizarre actually. But anyways, it works out fine. But
They
yeah,
do
I
say having.
sometimes yeah
Go on.
sometimes it just takes a second to kind of like if you were talking to two different people that spoke the different languages, you do need to kind of almost like flick a switch in your mind just to go from one language to another.
Mm-hmm,
Um, Whereas my kids can do that naturally because they were brought up here and they can speak very very naturally from English to Chinese. It's not difficult for them.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, they do say that having more than one language in turn helps learning more and more languages, and as you go along. So when you keep adding to your
Definitely.
bank in your brain, you will see crossovers. I'm the same with German. I see a lot of crossover between Irish and German, and I love that as well because I teach German people as well, and they find links between the languages that I wouldn't even see. They would know things in
Yeah,
their own mother tongue, and they'd see something that I would just think nothing of in Irish, and it's a very interesting experience to kind of see, a native speaker of another language learning Irish, for example, something then that you might just have a phrase and they can, they draw some sort of more sense in their brain from it. So yeah,
yeah,
go look. I really like that answer. I really like all of that now because you're doing really well, and it's, I don't know, it kind of it resonates with me, as I said, because I am also abroad, and it's tough to stick with it in any case. But I find it a little bit harder abroad, maybe sometimes, but other times I find it easier because of the fact that
yeah,
if you go online and you search out a group, for example, it doesn't have to be, but for example, those on Bitesize Pubble, you're finding a place where everyone's there for the same reason.
yeah,
And
absolutely.
they're all there to speak Irish, so you have a group of people that are really motivated together. And I kind of, I think that it everyone rallies each other on, to keep going and um, draw out more conversation out of one another rather than
Yeah.
trying to do it on your own. So I suppose that leads me on to the next question about what do you enjoy most about learning Irish, or how far you've come so far, and what's your favorite part about it all.
Well, I think you really can't do one part without the other. I mean, as much as I dislike doing grammar exercises, I know that it's still a must. Um, but I much more prefer getting involved with speaking activities because it's practical. You know what I mean? It's a
Mhm,
practical thing. But at the same time, when you practice writing, it gives you a chance to kind of reflect on word order and looking at maybe taking a little extra time and care at looking at how the sentences are structured. You know what I mean?
mhm,
So, but I think that like when I first started using Pubble, like I I had the dictionary out all the time, all the time, and I even have another one here. I've somewhere there at the side of me, but as time has passed by, I need it less and less, you know. And I found that with myself. I mean, there might be the odd word here and there that I'm unfamiliar with or whatever, but um, yeah, I kind of I'm beginning to notice my own um, progress in the fact that I don't need the dictionary as much. Do you know what I
Hmm.
mean? And for me alone, I think just that is progress that you can be proud of. You know what I mean?
I was
And
about
you
to
don't,
say, yeah.
that it's almost like I suppose it's like having a crutch that it's there if you need it, but to help you along. But then after a bit of time, you don't really need it because you've been practicing and practicing
Hmm.
so much that you just get a little bit stronger and a little bit more confident in yourself. Um, and I think that as well with some of the members in the group that I've really enjoyed sharing, um, just not just kind of exercises with, but kind of sharing parts about your life and things that are happening in your day-to-day life. That's really nice as well because you kind of feel like you're a little bit more part of the community as well, and it's not just kind of you just speaking or writing into a void.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, I quite enjoy that, and yeah, there's a few people in particular that I quite enjoy um, corresponding with, especially. Um, yeah, I'm not sure if I answered your
You did.
question again. I
You did
think I
indeed.
skipped.
You did indeed. Yeah, I
Um,
agree. I love the personal element of it all. Of any group, obviously I'm the only group I'm part of is Bitesize Pubble, and I'm sure there's other groups online that do the same. But I've said it before in other interviews. I really don't feel like I'm logging on to go to work. This is a
yeah,
job for me, but I love logging on to Pubble. I've never once dreaded logging on to find out what everyone's writing to me. I'm genuinely interested in finding out what everyone's been at, and seeing people, and I see people's progress as well. And maybe not everyone sees their own progress, but I definitely do. Kind of from an outsider's point of view, I can remember people's posts at the start, and then often I'd notice, oh God, there's a lot less correcting to be done here, or there's
yeah,
you can see that people are broadening their vocabulary and getting more confident in writing longer pieces on the posts that
yeah.
I do, so on and so forth. So yeah, I can see the progress, and I've definitely seen your progress, John. Absolutely. So again, well done, gohuntach, and I
Thank
hope,
you.
I hope you don't stop anytime soon with us, because I really do enjoy it, and spark you're great to spark conversation as well within the posts and on this platform itself. So yeah,
Good
gohuntach,
Margaret.
gohuntach. Rightio. I think that's answered all of my questions. I suppose just coming back to the last thing, which you've already mentioned. So for the future, your goals. So your main goal is to be able to
Yeah.
converse. Do you have any other short term or long term goals, even with your kids? Do you have anything else that you'd like to? Well, we won't hold it to you here on this video, but maybe you might come
Not
back in a
about it.
year's time and rewatch and think, I achieved that, or I haven't yet, but I'm on my way.
Yeah, I mean, I don't try to set my expectations too high. I mean, I try to keep realistic enough
Hmm.
goals. And I mean, I think um, if I can just aim to have even a short conversation with some friends online or face to face with a cup of coffee, I mean, I'd be very, very happy. For me, that would be, that's a real great goal to have. And even to come on here and with you and the internet and chat with you and introduce myself in Irish. I mean, that's a big achievement as well,
Hmm.
which I don't think I've ever done before either. To be honest with you. Um, so I mean, if I can do that, I'd be happy because I mean, I'm already reading. I read every day, like with my kids. I read these books, and we have many others there as well. So yeah, for me, it's really. Uh, yeah, just speaking is the main agenda for me. I really want to get on top of that and to be able. I suppose if I was to put the nail in the head, would be just to make sure that my Irish is as good as my Chinese. You know, because I
Hmm.
can I can have a conversation in Chinese and that's a language bizarrely different from where I come from, and I
Yeah.
don't have any history. So there's absolutely no reason in the world why I shouldn't be able to speak my own native language if I can speak Chinese. You know what I mean?
Well, that's the best ending note I've ever heard, and it's a valid point, and also then a realistic and valid end goal to have. And I think it's very realistic, and and you will get there.
Yeah.
You're three-quarters of the way there, I
Well,
think anyway. So
thank you. Well, I'm
mahu,
optimistic.
well, gur míle mahagat a Sean.
Agus tú féin gur mágad.
Gurmila, August. Yeah, we welcome any comments, any questions, any feedback, always in the comments. And yeah, slán go fóill, and I'll chat to you on Pobble, and I'll chat to everyone else either on YouTube, or if you ever join us over on Pobble, all our links will be in the description below. So, slán go fóill.
All right, slán is gur míle